1 month ago, I found myself with my team on this small blue boat. We were fighting waves that were crashing over us. A ridiculous current was swirling us around, and we were gently baking in 40 degrees C, 100 degrees Fahrenheit in old money, heat. But this isn't some ocean survival story. This is us at the start of the National Geographic Sea to Source expedition, going to our first site in the River Ganges to collect water samples from the middle of the river that at that point just happens to be 7 miles wide. The river movement is insane. We were on a proper adventure. This river is immense. It's one of the most iconic rivers on the planet, culturally, economically, and incredibly important from a biodiversity perspective, stretching 1,600 miles from the Bay of Bengal right up to the source in the Himalayas. And our job as Sea to Source expedition team was to work out how to track plastic from source to sea, to work out where it was coming from, and more importantly, how to solve the plastic pollution problem. So why rivers? We know from data that are based on models that rivers are one of the important contributors of plastic pollution to the ocean. And in those top 3 rivers, the Ganges is one of them. But these data are based on models, just looking at population and waste management systems. So we were the first team ever to look at how we could go globally to develop a methodology and a comprehensive assessment system to work out how to look at plastic and how this is changing. But first, let me take you to the team. As a start point, we are the largest all-women team that National Geographic has put together. We actually started to call this the expedition of firsts. Firstly, because I'm job sharing expedition leadership with Jenna Jambeck, professor at the University of Georgia, because we want to show not only can women succeed in science and conservation, but you can still be a mother and do so. So we're changing the parameter of exploration to mean that we can really achieve, we can demonstrate that it's possible not to choose between a family and career, but to deliver both at the same time. Thank you. We also didn't start off explicitly saying this would be all women. We set off choosing the best people for the job, and they just happen to be women. And you'll see here that as we thought about it, we of course brought on our in-country partners working with the University of Dhaka, Wild Team, and the Isabella Foundation in Bangladesh, and the Wildlife Institute of India, that we felt there was a massive opportunity to show the capability and strength and build opportunities for women in science, technology, engineering, and maths, and bring them on board to really create a united goal of making a difference and delivering this expedition together. So back to being on the boat. Around this methodology, you're traveling an enormous river system, you're spending 3 to 4 days at each site, and you're really trying to understand everything that's going on. So to do this, our team is very diverse. We're biologists, we're ecologists, we're engineers, we're technology experts, we're anthropologists, we're social scientists, and we're storytellers. And we are pulling together all of these methodologies at each site to make a difference. So on the water, it's measuring microplastics in sediment and in water. We're looking at collecting plastic particles from the air to understand where plastic is in air pollution. We're doing a threat assessment of plastics on wildlife in the river, particularly fish, which are so important for communities to eat. And then the 4th dimension of our work is to look at the people component. Firstly, how do they generate waste? The University of Georgia team have developed a citizen science tool to measure plastic waste, marine debris tracker. Anybody can use that. And we're applying it to actually systematically document the waste that we see in these different systems. We've also taken methodologies, transects and quadrats, photoquadrats from coral reef science, and applied them to map and document and quantify complex systems of waste. And then we're experimenting in that important transition between land and water. So we've created these eco-plywood drift cards that we're working as a community engagement tool to deploy in likely routes for plastic to go through storm drains, through side channels, into the main river and down into the ocean. These have a message on them asking people to communicate by SMS or WhatsApp when they find one. And we're going to go back after the monsoon and see how these have moved through the system. At the other end of the spectrum from pieces of wood, we have really pioneering technology, satellite tracking, mock-up plastic bottles, using satellites and cellular to see how they move through the system. And we're drone mapping the transition between the riverbank and the river. But finally, it's about the people. We have an amazing socioeconomic team who are working with communities. At each site, we talk to focus groups, women, waste pickers, fishers, youth, and decision makers. And we do household surveys. We know that the informal waste sector is a critical part of the solution, but often ignored, and that we have to create inclusive solutions if we are to make a difference. This, for me, is science with purpose. It's exploration that matters. For us, it's not a choice. It's all about planet and not plastic. But it's still an expedition underway. I rejoin it on Friday. But now I'd like to take you to my colleagues live in India, in the field, who are delivering this expedition right now on the ground. Sorry? Oh, you don't have it?
We don't have it.
Okay.
So sorry.
Is there any...
That's not happening.
Okay. I understand there's no audio. Aren't they fabulous? So this has been an intense effort to show some of the challenges of delivering science and conservation in remote areas, and that's around the technology involved in communicating what we're trying to do. So these guys have just come in from the field today. It is actually a festival in the Ganges, celebrating the birth of Ganga. We've delivered a community cleanup, and we've been out, the team have been out doing their scientific methodologies all day. So this is what they look like. They are all amazing, honestly. And this is this awesome team. Jenna's right there in the middle, at the back, waving. There we go. And she can't even hear me. This is how well we work together. And wrap it up. So I'm really sorry that they had done an awesome film. They've been working all night to try and do this live feed and live communications. But as ever, to prove that it's live, it doesn't work. Okay, thank you.